Welcome to Pulp Mortem, the search for a lost literary classic from the Pulp era. You ever put peanut butter on a hamburger? Shrimp in your chili? Maybe a little balsamic drizzle on strawberries? The first Frenchman to drop his roast beef sandwich into a vat of French onion soup. Oh no! Au? Sometimes things that shouldn't mix surprisingly go really well together. Or maybe I'm just hungry. But first, let's get to the author. Paul William Anderson was an American writer born November 25th, 1926, and he died in 2001 at the age of 74. Anderson earned his BA in physics from the University of Minnesota, but like so many other authors we talk about, the allure of the pulps was too much. His first short story was accepted in Astounding Science Fiction in 1947, and the rest is history. Instead of listening to my thoughts and opinions on Anderson, let me read to you what John Clute had to say about him in 1995. Paul Anderson has written one or two bad books in his time, but then he can afford to. Since beginning to publish his stories in 1947, he has hardly stopped. Almost every year has seen a book or two or more appear, running to a current total of at least 65 novels and hundreds of short stories. Other authors can claim to have been at least as prolific, but there is no other SF author who has produced as much high-quality work with such variety and with such continued verve for anything approaching the half-century of constant endeavor that Anderson can boast. He is central to the SF field, although sometimes, this is the downside of reliability, he tends to be taken for granted. He should not be. Alright, we're going to see if we can get through this today. Paul Anderson was a founding member of the Society for Creative Anachronism, member of the Swordsmen and Sorcerers Guild of America, and president of the Science Fiction and Fantasy Writers of America. He has won practically every award an SF writer can, including the Nebula 3 times and a Hugo 7. He was named the 16th SFWA Grandmaster, and a year before his death was included into the Science Fiction and Fantasy Hall of Fame. Yeah, big deal, Paul. We'll see about that. Clearly, history has been waiting with bated breath for my opinion.
Right.
Which brings us to the Where's the book? Which brings us to the High Crusade, a challenge from the stars. Like many another sleepy English village, Ansby was preparing for the crusade to the Holy Land, until the day a strange craft landed in a nearby pasture. Suddenly, the inhabitants of Ansby found themselves embarked on a far different crusade, a crusade which would take them light years away from England and pit their pikes and battle axes against the advanced technology of an alien superpower. High Crusade originally appeared in Astounding in 1960 in 3 parts. That same year, Doubleday published a hardcover edition. I own the 1978 Berkeley edition, which is 167 pages and originally cost $1.50. No cover artist is mentioned in my copy, and no visible signature. It's okay, but kind of boring. Out of all the story-accurate covers, I think I have the lamest one. Since this book has been reprinted a billion times, you shouldn't have any trouble finding yourselves a copy online. You might have a hard time finding a good deal online because this book seems to hold its value fairly well. But if you're not picky about condition or edition, you can find it fairly easily for under $15. I think I paid $5 in the wild for my beat-up, coffee-stained copy. The High Crusade was recommended to me by Ira over at SF Words of Wonder, who's awesome. And actually, we just had him as a special guest on the newest episode of the Elusive Exclusive Book Society, which is on Secret Fire Books channel. You guys should definitely check it out. Like I said, it was a lot of fun. And I'll include a link to that in the description. Another who recommended the High Crusade was Ajax Plunkett 5115. Ajax also recommended that I rework my rating criteria, which I did at the time. So all that to say, these are some fellows who know what they're talking about. But I'm not unearthing unknown classics or obscure authors here. Poul Anderson was very prolific and very well known within the industry, and the High Crusade was one of his most well-known novels. It was nominated for a Hugo. It was adapted into a war game, and it was made into a movie. I haven't seen the movie. I read that the movie totally sucked, even to the point that Paul Anderson declined to watch it. All right, let's talk about what I liked. Somebody get Joe Rogan on the line. We need some ivermectin over here. The concept. Knights versus aliens. It sounds kind of silly, and it shouldn't have worked, but it did. The thing is, I have quite a few books with knights versus aliens on them, and I'm wondering if Anderson started this trend or if he just kind of jumped on something, jumped aboard at a later date. I guess I could have been checking these dates to be sure, but I found myself enjoying this silly premise far more than I thought I would. All right, I'm going to be honest with you guys. I'm completely running out of steam here. I'm not going to. Normally, I have my script right here, and I'll memorize a line or two, or a paragraph, and then I'll record it, and it'll take me quite a few tries. I don't have that kind of energy in me, so I'm going to rely quite a bit off of my script. And sorry about that. I'd apologize for saying that the quality of this episode might not be what you guys are typically used to, but that's funny because I'm not quite known for my quality.
This show sucks, man.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. You got any?
So if I'm looking at my script a lot instead of at you, don't be offended. Okay, just grow up a little bit. Jeez, look, even my shirt's wrinkled. Maybe I should scrap this. The aliens are called Worrick, and they land in this medieval English village, right? The universe has been pretty docile and easy to subdue for the Worrick, and so they expect zero resistance, just like they have before. I guess the universe is just full of sissies. So they land, and one of the stumpy blue aliens comes out, nonchalantly whips out a ray gun, and blasts one of the villagers. Now, they expect panic, because that's usually what happens, but they're met with surprise, because the second after he blasts the villagers, he gets an arrow stuck in his chest. Oh, I just thought of my thumbnail. I'm definitely going to have arrows sticking out all over me. Perfect. You see, these Englishmen are just about to leave to join the Crusades, and so they are just itching for a fight. They're all geared up and ready to go, so it's literally the worst time in history for these little aliens to land. Thus begins the first of many really well done fight sequences.
Hey, Bill! What? We totally know how to sword fight!
Anderson put a lot of care into the battles. There's lots of momentum swings. There's visceral action. There's actual strategy. They're just so well done. He also knew when to kind of pull back and view the events of the battle from afar, like view the macro, but also when to zoom into the micro, and it's so well done. I don't know if you guys are like me. I love reading about action, but pages upon pages of action can really fatigue a reader if they're done incorrectly, but these were all handled excellently. They were handled excellently. Speaking of Anderson, he's a really good writer. I have 15 or so of his books back here, and I was really excited to finally read him. Now, I've heard from varying booktubers and comments and stuff that Anderson is kind of a polarizing figure, whether from the consistency of his book quality or maybe his personal or political beliefs. I don't know, which I'm unaware of those. I'm ignorant of those. I don't know. But from what I've experienced, he's just fine.
You're good.
The Worrick alien characters, and I don't even know if I'm sounding that right. Look, I'll put it here. Does that sound? Worrick. I feel like if I say it fast, I can't say it. They felt real, complete with personalities, and the historical English characters all felt authentic as well. I'm not an expert at ye old English speak with the phrases and the sentence structures and things like that, so I can't speak to Anderson's accuracy here, but I mean, to my layman's ears, it was serviceable. It all sounded perfectly medieval to me.
Bogus. Heinous. Most non-triumphant. You killed Ted, you medieval dickweed!
One could argue that Sir Roger de Tourneville is the main character, and he was fantastic. He was flawed, egotistical, with enough battle prowess to fight when he needed to, but also with enough smarts and bravado to bluff his way through circumstances where he was cornered or outnumbered or at a disadvantage. And essentially fight and bluff his way through an interstellar war. He was interesting, and we often had to guess at his true feelings and inner thoughts because the story was actually told from the viewpoint of Brother Parvis, a friar, played by John Rhys Davies in the film, which to my understanding is the only thing the film got right.
To you, Sir Roger Jerningham, Knight, take Lady Catherine Winchester as your lawful wedded wife, in the sight of this congregation and in the presence of Almighty God. I'm most certainly not yet!
Being a man of the cloth, he can speak Latin, since the aliens were initially assumed to be demons, and as we know, all demons know Latin at least. He is charged with figuring out a way to converse with the Worrick, and eventually becomes a translator between the races and the confidant of Sir Roger, which places this little monk smack dab in the middle of the story.
Maybe I am not meant for these duties. Maybe it's time for me to get a better duty.
Likewise, his religious beliefs were central to the story and added layers and depths to every scene as he struggles to parse these newfound revelations about the nature of the universe with his Catholic beliefs. Today's video is sponsored by Takea. To hold water. Put water in it, you guys. Takea. The end sequence was particularly satisfying. No spoilers here, so don't worry about that, but I was a fan of how it ended. Now, the bad, other than subjecting yourselves to viewing a sick man torture himself. I've read that this is a satire. Help me out, Ira and Ajax. Did you guys read this way? Maybe I just have a hard time picking up satirical elements from this era. I'm not sure. But to me, it read like it was played completely straight. There were ridiculous concepts. Knights with lances and swords fighting aliens with spaceships and ray guns and nuclear capabilities. But nothing was overt. I thought it was handled well. So I don't know if Anderson claimed that this was satire or not. And so part of me wonders if people just assume that this is satire because the premise is kind of silly. And the science here is the softest, squishiest sort of science. And maybe they just felt the need to try and justify its popularity. I don't know. I really, really don't know. But
I don't know what the that was.
Yeah, the science here is pretty whack. Now, I don't mind soft sci-fi or science fantasy. I don't mind it at all. I don't need accuracy or realism. So, like I said, it doesn't bother me. If you
My brain is on fire. I'm dying.
However, if you're a hard science fiction purist, then might I suggest some of Anderson's other work. At one point, several other alien races get involved in the war. This was the weakest part of the story, in my opinion. I felt that these new aliens were uninteresting. They complicated the plot. They convoluted a subsequent battle sequence. I feel like they didn't add anything to the story, and I would have cut them out. All right, let's have some fun. The initial conflict really did make me laugh. This chubby, cocky alien getting lit up with arrows. And subsequently, his whole crew getting just carved to bits with battle axes, maces, halberds, swords, lances, pikes. It was so gory, and it subverted my expectations in the very best way. I loved it. I was imagining their shock and panic the whole time, and it literally killed me. It didn't literally kill me. I don't even know why I said that. It's not even on my notes there. It made me laugh. That's what I meant. Oh.
I think I'm getting the black lung, Bob.
When the Worrick's ship initially lands, Brother Parvis is watching this with his friend Red John amongst a crowd. And let me read you what happens next. I know not what yon thing is, Red John bellowed. His voice rolled over the general babble, which died away. Mayhap some French trick, or may it be friendly, which would make our fear look all the sillier. Follow me, every soldier, to meet it when it lands. Magic, cried an old man, 'tis sorcery, and we are undone. Not so, I told him, this is Brother Parvis. Sorcery cannot harm good Christians. But I'm a miserable sinner, he wailed. St. George and King Edward. Red John sprang off the tube and dashed down the street. I tucked my robe and panted after him, trying to remember the formulas of exorcism. So I was just imagining this monk gathered up all his monk robes running towards this rocket saying, oh, clearly devilry. Yep. There's going to be some possessions today. At one point, curious Englishmen load this captured alien warhead into a trebuchet, launch it, and accidentally destroy an alien city. You know, now that I'm saying all this out loud, the satire is pretty obvious. So what's the verdict? We don't think he's going to make it. Oh, the verdict for the book. Oh, personal collection. This book is a blast. Even with the double recommendation, I wasn't prepared to like it as much as I did. If you haven't read this, you should. I'm keeping my eyes peeled for an original hardcover for my collection. And that is my sick review of the High Crusade. But honestly, thanks for recommending this, everybody. This was a good one. As always, thanks for watching. I will see you all next time with The Red Planet. But first, I'm going back to bed.